All right, we will say good day. This transmission has been titled Your ET Neighbors, and it is for the purpose of delivering to you more information that will increase the probability of contact in the years to come by delivering information on different ET groups over a period of time, one or two groups at a time in these transmissions, to familiarize you with who is in the neighborhood, who's been interacting with Earth for quite some time, who will continue to interact with Earth in various ways. So again, it increases your sense of the reality of what's going on around you and give you a better, more grounded awareness of the neighborhood in which you live as a planet. So we will begin this particular delivery by talking about a group of extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional beings that have been referred to generally by many people on your planet that have interacted with them as the Blue Men. Now, these beings, the ones that are interacting with Earth, are fundamentally energy beings. They have the ability to take what appears to be human form, although they will mostly appear as an outline, a silhouette that is a glowing blue form, their features being relatively obscured because their true nature is energy. And in their quote-unquote natural state, you would perceive them as blue floating orbs of light. But you can see them in many cases, when you do encounter them, changing back and forth between the orbs of light and the humanoid silhouette. They will generally appear to be relatively tall, perhaps 7, perhaps 8 feet in your counting. That's just a representation of the amount of energy coming through. Again, it's not that they actually have or possess this physical stature, but it is the way they are interpreted by your reality. It's the way they present themselves in your reality. Now, they come from a civilization that actually exists on 3 different planets in their area of space. Their original planet allowed them to create a civilization where many of the so-called scientists or researchers or explorers found a way to convert themselves and exist as energy beings. However, the majority of the civilization remained physical and went on to colonize 2 other planets as they spread out among the stars. So their civilization exists on 3 different worlds. They are exploring at this time a potential 4th world upon which to expand their civilization. But what we are saying is that their civilization exists in 2 fundamental forms. Truly, solidly physical, just as you are, and the ones that have learned to convert themselves into energy beings, which are the ones that are interacting with your planet at this time. The physical ones are not. But the ones that are interacting with your planet are doing so not only for the purpose of observation and study, as is true of many ET races who are interacting to some degree with Earth, but they also are quite compassionate, quite peaceful, and they have, shall we say, a tendency, when interacting with humans on your planet, to encourage those humans to change from a warlike civilization to a more peaceful civilization. They have even rescued people in wartime situations, removed them from the war. They have healed many people on your planet who were injured in war and from other causes. Because, again, they are energy beings, they can vibrate at a frequency that allows a person to match their frequency and allow rapid healing to occur. They will often observe warfare scenarios And they even have the ability for people, sometimes, not always, depending upon their destiny, because the blue men will not interfere with your destinies, your choices, but they have from time to time, when it is appropriate, even removed humans from your planet and taken them to live on a planet where there is nothing but peace. Now, when they choose to do this, it is usually because a person has been gravely injured, perhaps even fatally injured, in some sort of wartime scenario. They have the ability to actually, in certain cases, resurrect these people, resuscitate these people, and allow them to be placed on one of these planets where they can experience a life of peace away from war. So the blue men, as they are called, generally, which doesn't mean there are not females among them, but this is how they present themselves and how they have been labeled by your people, because that's how they seem to appear, as a male silhouette, glowing blue, obscured features, very tall, very energetic, very kind, very compassionate, very peaceful. These beings are continuing to interact with your people from time to time, though they generally remain in the background, because again, they cannot really interfere with anything you have chosen to be your own destiny. But nevertheless, they will appear to those in need from time to time to assist and aid them in either their healing or their removal to another place where they can experience lasting peace. And their energy on your planet gives you a greater opportunity to seek peace for yourselves by matching their frequency. Now, they have restricted themselves to some degree to the different kinds of individuals they may interact with. They may broaden their ability to interact with more of your population as the years progress. You will find in general that they will interact more often than not with the kind of people on your planet you call the indigenous groups, American Indians and so forth, because of their adherence to some of the old ways of relating to nature. Because again, they are very strongly connected to the idea of nature as the blue men. So in letting you know that they exist, you can open your minds, open your hearts, allow your energy to flow more freely, knowing that they are among you, whether you see them or not, and they are helping with their energy to give you more of an opportunity to choose peace and healing for yourselves, so that you may arrive at a time on your planet, or whatever version you shift to, that is more representative of peace and no longer or never has experienced the idea of war, strife, disease, struggle, and pain. So just open up to the idea of the blue men and see what happens energetically in your lives as you move forward. We will discuss another group during the meditation that will follow the monologue and questions this day of your time. But for now, we invite you to open up, to engage us with your questions, and allow us to be of continued service to you.
Good day to you, Bashar. Thank you, and I'm immensely grateful for being here.
As we are grateful and deeply appreciative of the interactions with all of you. What would you like to discuss?
First of all, we're immensely grateful for you being here, and you have no idea how much grateful we are. But
yes,
it may. You are, okay. Especially this unusual time that we are in.
Yes, especially now.
Okay, I just have a few quick questions, and I won't take much time.
That's all right.
Regarding our ET neighbors, I know that we have to be at a vibrational state that we will be able to contact, or they will be able to contact us.
Yes, although that's not as necessary for some of them as it is for others.
Thank God. All right. So I was asking that it is true, it's our free will, but can we choose them to please contact us or kind of forcing on us or somehow kick?
It's not about forcing, it's about following the formula, raising your vibration to the appropriate level, and being the kind of person that they would then be natural in contacting. But again, you have to trust the timing.
Okay, but I don't believe that humanity is where they will be able to contact. I'm just saying that sometimes a karmic.
Here is something perhaps that is important for you to understand. We talk about the idea of disclosure, we talk about the idea of open contact, but remember, depending on the culture that someone belongs to, there are already ongoing contacts happening on a regular basis, and some of these contacts have been going on for generations. It's just that most of you don't know about them because they're usually taking place with people that are more connected to some of the ancient ways, connected to nature, so on and so forth, things that are more representative of the kinds of people and the kinds of relationships that some of the ETs find more compatible. So when we talk about the idea that open contact is about to happen in the future, we're actually only referring to certain cultures on your planet that haven't yet allowed themselves to open up enough or connect to nature enough or be themselves enough for that contact to occur in their culture. But there are cultures on your planet that have been having contact for thousands of years.
So these prophets or seers, and let's say, for example, Jesus,
Yes.
were they a human or were they also connected to?
Well, they were human, but they were hybridized like all of you, but they understood how to be fully more what they really were in terms of expressing all the abilities that each of you have, but are lying dormant within you because you're not allowing yourself to realize your full potential.
Okay, okay. Will you please help me with this idea that there is no outside reality, and the outside reality is a reflection of my own belief. Yet I see my hand and I see Bashar and I see a lot of people are listening.
Yes.
How do I add up that there is no outside reality?
You are misinterpreting the idea when we say there is no outside. We mean there's no outside to existence. But you can create a reflection within existence of something that appears to be outside of yourself. In the same way that when you look in a mirror, your reflection appears to be over there. But it's not really. It's all the light coming back to your eyes. There's really nothing over there. So the idea is that the outside is simply an illusion that you create for your own purposes, for your own convenience to experience certain things. So don't misunderstand what we mean when we say there's no outside. There is outside as an experience. There's just no outside to existence.
So I'm talking to Bashar, that does exist.
But you're talking to your version of me. You're creating your version of me in your consciousness, knowing that I exist on a fundamental level. You are willing to match my vibration enough to create your version in order to communicate with me, just as I am creating my version of you to communicate with you. Your version of me may not exactly be my version of me, and your version of you may not exactly be my version of you, but it's close enough vibrationally that we can actually exchange the idea of information.
All right, right, okay. And on that issue, when do we say this is a belief and when it is actually a fact?
There are only 5 facts. Now, we understand you can say it's a fact that I'm experiencing this, but that doesn't mean the experience isn't created from a belief. Do you understand?
Let me give an example.
Sure.
Okay, there are 40 million people live in California, 30
Yes.
million cars, and
Yes.
they burn like 20 million gallons of gas every day.
Yes.
So I say it's factually, I, as a person in California responsible for global warming
Yes.
and all these fires that we have. So
It is a fact.
or this is a belief.
It is a fact that you have created that experience with your beliefs. That's the way you use the term fact. In other words, these things can change. And if they can change, they're not fundamental facts. They're temporary facts that you've created with your belief systems. So when we say fact, we mean things that cannot change, ever, for any reason whatsoever. We're talking about the fundamental structure of existence itself. But the facts that you're experiencing in your reality are simply the product of your belief systems, and they can be changed. Therefore, at most, we would call them temporary facts, rather than something so factual it can never be changed.
Okay, in this version of reality I'm in, would the global warming get rid of the humanity?
If it continues in that way, yes, it can be the destruction of the environment on your planet, as has happened on other planets. So the idea is to shift yourself by following your passion in the formula that we give you, shift yourself to different versions of Earth that are already more reflective of something other than those experiences that you don't prefer. At the same time, the way you do that is by acting physically in the best interests of demonstrating to people how to do things, how to act, how to make choices that are more representative of a different kind of world. So that's what makes it easier for you to shift there, and also give others an opportunity to do so as well, should they choose to do so, by seeing an example in you of the kind of behaviors that would be more representative of the kind of world you prefer.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Does that help?
Definitely. Can I ask one or two more questions? Do I have
Well,
time?
again, that was a question.
Yes. What do we take from this life to afterlife?
You take your experience. You take what it is you wish to apply to your own path, your own growth, and go on to the next adventure, whatever that you choose that to be.
And when we say thank Bashar or thank God, who we are thanking?
Yourselves in a
God.
different reflection.
So if I say thank God, that means I'm thanking myself?
Well, you're thanking the idea of the whole concept of existence itself. You are expressing gratitude at being a part of it. So I'm not saying it's completely just yourself as an individual, but you are a part and an expression of all that is. So in a sense, you are being grateful and in appreciation of yourself as yourself, but simultaneously also as the whole of everything that is beyond you as an individual.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You are welcome.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Dante. I am from Pennsylvania, but I live in Guatemala. My question is about last year's transmission, The Shifting Window of Contact, in which you mentioned it is very important to vote. You said that our political situation must change in order for contact to be accessible. You said that it had to relate to leaders who seek absolute power. I believe some people in your community that I see online are misinterpreting that, so I would love if you can share more clarity. Another thing you mentioned is that it is important to mail our votes in, except that was encouraged due to coronavirus, and now we're seeing that the postal service is being defunded, and some of the systems that would sort mail are also being removed. I'm wondering if you can speak to what is the best way for us to make sure our vote is recorded and heard in our shifting circumstances. Any clarity is so super greatly appreciated. Thank you. I love you. Goodbye, Bashar.
Again, whatever way is the path of least resistance for you. If it has to be the idea of mail, and it seems like that's the obvious choice for you in your situation, then by all means understand that that is the path of least resistance for you. If it's actually showing up physically to cast your vote, then that's the path of least resistance for you, if synchronicity makes that obvious to you. But the whole point of encouraging people on your planet and in your country to vote is simply, more importantly, not the political idea so much as it is the idea of taking a physical action that represents your preference of the reality that you prefer to experience. So when we talk about encouraging you to vote, it has less to do with politics and more to do with the actions that would be representative that you would automatically be taking if you already existed on the version of Earth you say you prefer to exist on. Because remember, physical action is the language of physical reality, not words or anything of the like. It's simply taking the action. So even if you take the action and in one reality your so-called vote doesn't appear to be counted, that's not necessarily the consequence that matters. The consequence is having taken the action to the best of your ability. What happens after that will simply be representative of the reality you prefer in your reality and the reality others prefer in their reality, but their reality won't affect the effect you have created by taking the action from your reality. Because just because you can see things going on in someone else's reality that you don't prefer doesn't mean you're actually in that reality. So we're simply encouraging you to take the actions that would be more representative of the reality that you choose to be in, no matter what you see them choosing to do.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I have been studying the tarot system for about 28 years. And
Oh, how exciting.
oh, it is. It's my passion.
All right.
A little while ago, I discovered a deck that allowed me to easily communicate with the deceased.
Yes.
That sparked a passion and an idea. Would it be possible for me to design a set of cards to communicate with extraterrestrials using symbols, numbers, and different images?
Yes, and in fact, such a deck already exists because the channel co-created such a deck a long time ago with another individual. It may or may not be still available to you on your planet. As you say, it might be quote-unquote out of stock or out of print. But that deck that was designed as an extraterrestrial tarot deck is called Contact Cards.
Okay, I'm going to look for that.
All right. Now, if that doesn't fully work or you have no ability to access it, yes, of course, it's possible for you to design your own. Of course it is.
Okay, thank you for that. Will crystal skulls be important tools after passing through the eye of the needle?
Yes,
Okay.
they will be important permission slips as they always have been, but because people on your planet are having more of a growing awareness of them, they can become more predominant in your society as permission slips that can aid and assist you in connecting to different things, not only about your own history, but also about what you typically call your future.
Okay, and can I utilize crystal skulls at this time, at this present time, to communicate or work with races, extraterrestrial races who also utilize crystal skulls?
Yes, although not necessarily many of them will utilize crystal skulls as such, though they may have other versions of those permission slips that aren't necessarily fashioned after skulls.
Okay.
So, yes, you can make similar connections, but again, it's up to you to follow your excitement, because if it excites you, then there's a reason that it does.
Okay. And the quartz skulls, because they have that recording ability, are there also other skulls that can be of value, like charoite or some of the other minerals?
Again, whatever you're attracted to is what will work for you for a variety of reasons, but you have to determine for yourself what you are attracted to. If you're attracted, the attraction itself tells you that at least at this moment you're attracted to it. It is something that can work in alignment with your belief system. Otherwise, you wouldn't be attracted to it.
Okay. I have an unusual question. Were our thoughts that we think generated outside of this reality, and are we limited to these thoughts that we have access to?
The thoughts that you think are generated from within your physical mind, because thoughts are a secondary level expression of the consciousness as it filters itself through the belief systems that make up your physical mind. So the idea is that there is first belief system, then the beliefs reinforce themselves with emotions, thoughts, behaviors, and then reflections of your experience in the idea of physical reality. So thoughts are generated from within physical reality to reinforce beliefs to allow you to continue to experience the idea of physical reality, because physical reality isn't real until you believe that it is.
Okay, so when we're outside of physical reality, are thoughts still there then? Are thoughts
Not in the same way, no. It's more about recognition and knowingness rather than the idea of thoughts as you experience them in physical reality. You might, in a non-physical state, now this is going to sound a little paradoxical, you might in a non-physical state still think that you're thinking, but you're not really thinking in the same way you do as a physical being. It just might be that you're so used to it that you still think you're thinking, but in fact what you're actually doing is simply more directly perceiving or knowing. Now, you can observe what you perceive or know, and that might feel like thinking, but it's not exactly the same process.
Okay. Does the concept of mathematics and numerology exist outside of time-space?
Yes, to some degree, although generally speaking, it is a underlying template representation of what you consider to be different levels of reality. So it will be interpreted or experienced very differently on the different levels of reality. For example, we don't experience math in the same way that you do. We experience reality more geometrically than mathematically, even though there are what most people would consider to be mathematics involved in geometry. We experience it in a more holistic way, a more representational, symbolic way than the idea of the mathematical formulas expressed by your mathematicians and scientists.
Oh, thank you for that understanding. I had at one time a labyrinth on my property, which I think is a geometric shape. And
Yes.
I was listening to your spiral lecture on the Shaddock, and I was wondering
Shaddock.
Shaddock, thank you for correcting me. And I was wondering if I could build some geometric structure on my own property that would be useful for what, is there is the
How
triangle?
about this suggestion?
Okay.
When you get excited about something, stop wondering whether or not it's something that might assist you and just take it as far as you can and see what happens.
Okay.
Because every question you have asked just about is, I wonder if, I wonder if. How about just answering it with, why not?
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Bashar.
We thank you. Good day.
Good day.
Hello Bashar, hello viewers. My name is Ian, currently coming to you from my hometown of Port Macquarie, New South Wales, Australia. A few months ago, I lived in the northeast of China, in a city called Changchun in the province of Jilin. And one evening, out for my daily walk, between the hours of 6 and 8 p.m., I was walking by the river, minding my own business, watching people do Tai Chi and dancing. And behind me, I heard one of the crowds give out a collective "Four." I spun around and saw what at the time I thought was a very impressive drone. On reflection, I realized it could have only possibly been one of your people's spacecraft. It looked exactly as depicted in the documentary First Contact and acted exactly as depicted in the documentary First Contact. It triangle shaped lights on each corner, red lights in this case. It rotated and then suddenly it flew away as fast can be. And what gave it away is that it made no sound whatsoever. You could say it was so quiet you could hear the silence. My question is, what did you pick up in terms of energy from the crowd? More positive or more negative? What I sensed from the crowd was one of curious awe. So that is my question. Thank you very much. That is all. Good day.
Well, first you have to understand that wasn't my ship personally. It can be a ship from my civilization or from the Yael civilization, which uses triangular craft. They were observing the energy of the Tai Chi formation to gauge and observe the idea of how it raised the frequencies and vibrations of everyone in the group.
Hey, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
So nice to speak to you.
And you as well.
So I'd like to do a little bit of sharing, if that's okay.
Yes, yes.
So a few weeks ago, I got one of my wisdom teeth extracted, and then I got very ill, got taken to the hospital, and then got a surprise diagnosis of having AML leukemia, which is a very dangerous, very rapidly evolving type of blood cancer.
Yes.
And I decided not to go the typical route, which would be chemo. Instead, I decided to go home and do a detox.
All right.
And so I'm 2 weeks in, and so far it's going extremely well. And I just wanted to talk to you about that
if you had anything to add to that.
You understand that we cannot discuss health issues.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So all we can say is that you had the wisdom to create a synchronicity that would reveal to you something that you needed to pay attention to.
Right. Right. And so I'm not necessarily asking for advice at all. I just thought if there's anything else there, because I feel like this is a pretty big life event for me.
It is.
And
it depends on what you do with it. It depends on what you learn about yourself through this process and this experience, which is why most people create these kinds of experiences for themselves. You can ask yourself the question, what is it focusing me on that otherwise I may not have focused on? That's usually what the important issue is in why this has been created by you as a process or an experience. First and foremost, again, as I said, the synchronicity of the wisdom tooth leading you to this particular awareness. So you can start your synchronistic symbols there, but again, explore the idea, and you will know more about this as you go through the process of what it is getting you to focus on that you might otherwise not have focused on had you not created this. Not that you necessarily need it, but obviously at one point you believed you did, because this is what you felt you needed to bring your attention to something that will be very important for you to pay attention to within your life, about the kind of choices you're making and the kind of changes that you prefer to make in your life. And you have to know this will help you make them more easily if you learn the lessons and pay attention to what it is you are being forced to focus on by having this experience in your life.
Right. And so
that is what we will say.
Yeah, and so I find it so interesting because I actually find this whole situation pretty exciting.
All right. That is a good state of being to stay in so that you can experience the information and the lessons you need to learn in a positive way.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's really come out for me is that one thing that I'm most excited about is that I feel like through this journey, I can also show people that there's alternatives.
Yes.
And not in any way to diss medicine at all. I mean, I think medicine...
No. Again, it's whatever the path of least resistance is for those who have certain belief systems. That's what works.
Right. And so I find this to be a much more joyful, much more effortless path in a way that doesn't contain suffering in the way that chemo does.
All right. Again, if things change for you, go with the flow. Go with the path of least resistance, as synchronicity not only brings you objects, situations, circumstances, opportunities, and symbols to move and guide you forward, but sometimes also, as synchronicity will, prevent you from moving down certain paths, again, as a guiding mechanism that's not necessarily your path of least resistance at this moment.
Right. That makes sense. So we'll just see how it goes, because right now I'm on day 11, I think.
Oh, all right.
So, which is also synchronistic, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you for your willingness to experience your power strongly enough to go through this process and learn what it is you need to learn for your expansion and your growth.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because I felt like when I was in the hospital and the doctors would talk to me, and there was very much a sense of urgency that I needed to start chemo right away, and it was dangerous, and like every day I waited, it was going to be more dangerous.
Yes.
And I never felt scared.
All right.
You know, and I think many people in my situation would be scared of dying or other
Many people might, yes.
And so I felt that the whole time I was able to remain in this place of calmness and realize that is like a valid path to choose, of course, but like it was never my path, and I never felt like I needed to go down that path.
All right. Again, just pay attention to your synchronicities to guide you as to exactly how the path needs to flow.
Right.
As long as you are not ruling anything out, you will be open to receiving from synchronicity the appropriate path for you at any given moment.
Right. And so do you have any comments? Because I hadn't thought about that. It was my wisdom tooth extraction that kind of brought, not that it caused it, but it like brought this whole situation to the surface.
Yes, that's what I already addressed. You were wise enough, wisdom enough to use that as a symbol to move you into the situation and circumstance you needed in order to receive this information.
Right. Right. Okay.
What else does it need to represent?
Hmm.
Is that not a sufficient symbol?
No, it's great. It's great.
All right. Then there's nothing else that needs to be said about it. You don't have to overthink it or overcomplicate it.
Right. Okay. May I ask you some other questions unrelated?
Well, that was a question. So what other questions do you have?
So I was always wondering, with your civilization, your planet is Essassani, right?
Yes.
And so, do you ever consider living on more than one planet, or how come you only stay on the one when you have the technology to?
I never said we only stay on the one.
Okay.
That's an assumption on your part.
Okay, that's valid. Yeah. So then that is your home world, but then you also
Yes.
have colonized other worlds.
Yes.
Okay. And so is Essassani the most populous world, or are other ones more populous?
It depends upon the environment. It depends upon the purpose of settling on a particular planet as to what drives the needs of the population there. Our homeworld usually never exceeds somewhere in the neighborhood of about 300 million.
Yeah.
It is an average that in general is maintained on the colony worlds, but there can be more or less, again, depending upon the nature of the planet and the purpose for why we might be there.
Right. And when you meet other civilizations,
Yes.
do most of them communicate with you telepathically, or do you also?
A lot of them do, but some of them do not.
Okay. And so then how do you communicate with those other races? Is it like via technology or?
Well, first of all, remember that we usually make contact with planets in the same way we're making contact with yours.
Mhm.
We have a connection to an individual through whom we may channel information, which then automatically comes out in their language, of course, because we're not speaking English right now.
Right.
So the idea is that we communicate that way, but doesn't mean we don't have the capacity to learn someone's language.
Right. Right. And so in your alliance of worlds,
Yes.
is everybody there telepathic, or it's the same thing where some races are and some races are not, and they communicate via other means?
Some races are and some races are not.
Okay. And so could you give a couple examples of the races that are not telepathic, how they communicate? Is it verbal? Is it via like?
Some will communicate verbally in their own language as you would understand it. Some communicate by vibration. Some communicate by color shifts and changes. There are even those that communicate through what you might call electromagnetic waves.
Yeah. Yeah. Super interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And so do you ever colonize planets together with other races, or is it?
We have done so sometimes for various purposes, but it's not necessarily that common.
Yeah. And so if distance isn't really a thing at all, then the planets that you colonize, they can be anywhere in the universe, right? It doesn't matter like which galaxy they're in, because space and time.
Fundamentally, no, it does not matter. But it will be based on certain other parameters that we don't necessarily go into right now.
Right.
But there may be certain reasons for why we may maintain a particular connection to something that isn't necessarily that far away, as you would say, in your sense of distance.
Yeah.
It just depends.
Yeah.
But no, distance in that sense is not really an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, super interesting. Does your Alliance of Worlds have any kind of rules as to colonizing planets and like how many you can colonize or where they are, or is?
Well, guidance perhaps that best serves. But the idea is, of course, there is always the non-interference directive of making sure that we don't interfere with civilizations that already exist in a way that would be detrimental to them. We only colonize worlds, as you use that term, that don't necessarily have habitation on them. So the idea is there are guidelines and so on and so forth, but not anything you would really call a hard and fast rule in the way that humans tend to think of those things.
Right.
Because again, remember, we operate on pure synchronism.
Yeah.
So the idea is that we synchronistically wind up exactly where we need to be, doing exactly what we need to do that serves the best of all concerned.
Right. And so for your race, because you're transitioning to quasi-physical, is there any need?
No, we are quasi-physical.
All
We're
right.
transitioning to non-physical.
Right, sorry, apologies.
No apology necessary.
Do you have any need at all to exercise in any way, or like move your body in any certain way, or like mental?
Well, we do move our bodies, but we don't really have a need to exercise in the way that you think of it. No.
Right.
Remember, we also no longer eat and no longer sleep.
Right. Are there any kind of mental trainings that you do, or like any type of training at all?
Well, I went through a training period to learn to become a first contact specialist, so yes, it depends on what you're doing.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
I know, that's why I said it.
Yeah. No, I think that was it, Bashar. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, we thank you for the interaction. Good day.
Good day. Thank you.
Hello and good day, Bashar. My name is Emmanuel Myers from Chicago, Illinois. And my question is, are there any practices or images or story structures that would bring me closer to the Ishikani frequency? I have much desire to dive further into the frequency that is the Ishikani people and all of the gifts that they have to impart on me. Good day. Love and light, health and wealth in all days and all ways. Peace.
The only thing you have to do, as we have always said, is just follow the steps of the 4-point formula of acting on your passion to the best you can, with no insistence or assumption of the outcome, and stay in a positive state no matter what manifests so you can get a benefit from it. But you must follow these steps as precisely as possible, and also include the understanding of how to investigate your negative beliefs and let them go, and also allow yourself the opportunity to realize that everything works automatically when you follow the formula. And when you relax into the flow of your true self, your flow will take you exactly where you need to go. When you act on your passion, you raise your frequency. When you raise your vibrational frequency of energy, you become a more sensitive receiver and antenna for higher frequency information and energy from other higher level sources. So the way to match the vibration more readily of our civilization as Eshakani is to simply follow the formula as precisely as you can, let go of the beliefs that don't serve you, and recognize the automatic tools that come into play, like synchronicity being the organizing principle of your life, and let them operate in the way they naturally operate without having to worry about whether or not you're off the path. Just let them do what they need to do, and know that you will attract everything you need to live a fulfilled life. And by raising your frequency in that way, you will match whatever vibrational resonance you need to that will be of best service to you and to the rest of your planet, as well as to the cosmos.
Hi,
And to you, good day.
how are you?
Perfect, and you?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, please proceed.
I'm Gabriela from Canada, and my first question is about the formula.
Yes.
So in the formula, you say to act on the excitement to the best of your ability until you can take it no farther.
Yes.
How does the formula incorporate rational thinking or logic?
Well, you can be rational and logical about what it is you're experiencing. You can understand it from that point of view. But it's not really about taking that too far. It's not about overthinking or overcomplicating the idea. It's more about allowing things to flow in a natural way, knowing that that's how things work. Whatever it is that then does manifest, you can think about in any way, shape, or form you would like to, as long as the thinking process doesn't interfere with the natural flow of what synchronistically needs to come to you to serve you.
Because I was thinking that maybe rational thinking sometimes can be fear-based beliefs.
Of course it can.
Like that.
Of course it can. But that's where you have to be honest within your own self-investigation to be able to tell the difference between excitement and anxiety.
And also there's such things such as religious norms or social norms.
Yes.
So when they interfere with your excitement,
They don't interfere with your excitement. Your belief systems may allow them to interfere, but they themselves don't interfere if you don't necessarily believe that they have anything to do with your true self and your true path. You're the one that allows them to interfere if you have that experience. They can't interfere on their own.
So is it like you can change the beliefs or like?
Yes, of course. That's the whole idea, is you change your beliefs to be more in alignment with who you prefer to be, as long as you know you are remaining within holistic integrity and not changing your beliefs to something that is out of alignment with who you are, then you are walking the path of least resistance that is true for you. So of course you can change your beliefs, because your beliefs are what create your reality experience. Nothing else does.
Okay, because I was thinking that maybe these are like those norms, maybe they're also sometimes fear-based if they
Yes, they are. So if you recognize the ones that are fear-based and don't prefer to buy into the ones that are fear-based, you have the choice not to do so.
And the same goes like for the attraction. If you're attracted to do something or to someone, and then you have a fear, a belief that blocks you and like says, "Oh, you're not supposed to," that means that you're encountered on a fear-based belief that you should change or investigate. Is that correct?
Well, again, it's about understanding the reason why you would choose to do anything. You have to be in touch with the belief behind why you choose to do things, so that you can recognize if you're doing things or choosing to do things that are based on either positive or negative beliefs. Again, this is all about knowing yourself more clearly, becoming more transparent to yourself, so you understand the reason why you might choose to do something more clearly. And then you'll be able to tell whether that reason is positive or negative.
Thank you.
Yes.
So my next question is, why do I often feel like I'm wasting my time? Is it a matter of me appreciating more of where I am, or me making choices that leave me compressed or not following my excitement, or is it something?
Well, it could be both and either. You have to, again, be honest within your own self-examination as to what it might be in any given circumstance or situation. The idea, again, of wasting your time, so to speak, yes, can be representative of not appreciating what's happening in the moment, because you think that somehow, for some reason, what's happening can't serve you, when of course it always can, if you stay in the proper state to use it and derive a benefit from it. But always make sure, when you say that something does or doesn't excite you, always check with yourself and make sure that you're not the one with your beliefs dampening the excitement that could be there. Make sure you're not the one with your beliefs that's making anxiety look like excitement instead of realizing it's anxiety. Always check with yourself to make sure you're not the one that is coloring what's going on. But if you finally recognize that certain ideas really are truly representative of your passion and your excitement, then act on them to the best of your ability with no insistence on the outcome, and stay in a positive state no matter what happens. Because even if something manifests that you neutrally don't prefer, you have to know it's got to be there for a reason that can serve you. And if you stay in a positive state, you will derive the benefit from whatever it is that happens. And by doing it that way, then whatever manifested will go away more quickly if it doesn't belong in your life, because you've been willing to accept that there must have been a reason for it to have appeared in the first place.
I also have a question about discomfort.
Yes.
Is discomfort often present when changing beliefs?
It can be, although it doesn't have to be. Again, there may simply be resistance to changing the belief, and the resistance can cause the sensation of discomfort because you're not used to what you're changing to. But you can allow yourself to get used to the idea of change, and when you get more used to the idea that change is okay, you won't be uncomfortable when you change.
Mm-hmm. And so because I was thinking that maybe when you feel discomfort or feel uncomfortable, is a flag to not go somewhere.
It can be, but again, this goes back to what we said at first. You have to know yourself well enough and investigate yourself honestly enough to know the difference between why you're choosing or not choosing what it is that the choice is about, so that you know whether or not you're making a choice from anxiety or from excitement. You have to be able to learn to tell the difference.
And it's just by honest.
You will know the difference. I mean, simply put, remove all of the other conditions and things that are attached to this. Do you not fundamentally have the capacity to know the difference between excitement and anxiety within yourself?
I do.
All right, then keep it at that level. And if something comes up that you're uncertain about, ask yourself the question, am I choosing to do or not do this because I'm excited about another way, or this is not my path? You ask yourself these questions, you will have more honest self-examination, and you will know whether you are or are not choosing something from excitement or anxiety. You'll learn that process. You'll feel it out, and you'll get used to being able to tell the difference more clearly. But you have to take that moment to ask yourself these questions. You don't have to rush forward. You don't have to make an immediate decision necessarily all the time. So take the time to find out why you are or are not making a choice, why you are or are not moving forward on something or changing your mind about something. You have the ability to always ask yourself the question, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Thank you. And like, I also have another question.
Yes.
How everything is a reflection of you. For example, a concrete floor or a piece of paper.
Yes. Well, again, you don't have to necessarily always put 100% reflection into everything. Some things are not necessarily a one-to-one reflection. Some things might simply be background reflections to allow you to do what you need to do, but it's not like you have to completely pay attention to those things. It might just be the chessboard that you're playing on, and it's more important for you to focus on the game that is being played rather than the fact that you're playing on a chessboard.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
So my last question is about heart. So,
Yes.
so I've read a book that heart has memory. So
It does.
when we have these experiences, are they like stored in the heart instead of the brain?
It's not that they're stored in the heart or the brain. It's that there is a configuration that happens within the brain and the heart that allows them, when they need to tap into information that you simply translate as a memory. But it's being created in the present.
Mm-hmm. Everything is created in the present.
There is no other time in which to create something.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much. I think that's all.
All right. We thank you for the co-creation of the interaction. Our unconditional love to you.
To you too. Bye.
Good day.
Hey Bashar, this is Michael from Tel Aviv, and I am excited to be asking you another question. I heard you say that story structure is built into our psyche, and the story structure allows us to have such beautiful experiences and very meaningful experiences and real experiences that are very deep and moving. My question is it only built into the psyche, or is it the same or similar on the spirit levels? Thank you, and good day.
It exists on many different levels in a certain way. It's not experienced quite the same way as a crystallized form other than in physical reality. There's more malleability to it, different perspectives that can be added, different elements that come up on different levels of reality than the elements that are part of story structure on Earth. And the story structure can also change from civilization to civilization, even within the physical universe. But the basic underlying idea of story structure exists on many levels as simply the patterns or frequencies of energy that are incorporated into consciousness on that level that are most available or receptive to the delivery and the retention of information and knowledge.
To Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Really excited to be here, excited to talk to you.
As are we.
About the flash matrix that you shared with us before.
Yes, what about it?
First question is that the spirals, should we have the spirals 55 in one direction and 34 in another, like the sunflower pattern? Or
it would be wise to copy from nature, yes.
Yes, great. Second question about the flash matrix. Does the end of each spiral touch the crystal at the center and at the periphery of the hemispheres, or is there a small distance in between them?
Generally, there is a small gap.
Okay, and is there a measurement to that gap that we should be aware of?
It will depend upon the scale of what you are creating, of course. But the idea is it should be in proportion, the same kind of gap as exists between the synapses of your brain.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
But in proportion to the scale.
Okay, yeah, we could figure that out. Thank you. Last question on the flash matrix. Is 2 mm acrylic a good insulator for the spirals?
Perhaps it would suggest you go to 3.
3. Okay, because they are interwoven, the spirals.
We understand.
Right. Yes, okay. 3 millimeters. Awesome. Thank you. From your perspective, what would you say the purpose of the government is?
A government or the government?
A government.
Well, again, like in our system, we have those that amplify guidance, amplify synchronicity, allow there to be a kind of a vibrational pattern set up of energy that serves the best of all concerns so that our experience of synchronism can continue along the path of least resistance for all individuals contained within that particular society or system. So it's more of an amplification and guidance system by individuals who are willing to serve in that capacity.
Right. So it sounds like that can be translated in our reality in a very similar way as almost an education system that is sharing with people the nature of reality.
It's certainly closer to the educational idea, yes.
Right. And making sure everyone has, in a sense, what they need,
yes.
At least as basic needs in order to thrive.
Yes.
In that way.
Yes.
Okay, really like that. And I'm not sure if you can comment too much on this, but our Constitution, is there anything that if you scan our Constitution that you would see would be a great either addition or transformation that you would see as beneficial to us?
Well, certainly the idea of not being in a position where you need to explain the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you have many different changes and addendums and alterations and things that you bring about in your laws, including in your Constitution, because you feel that individuals don't understand with enough clarity the basic ideas that are there to begin with in general. In other words, you have said that certain ideas ought to be self-evident, but apparently to many of the people on your planet, they're not. And therefore you have to augment them all the time with all sorts of other laws and rules to make sure that people understand the original intent. So a educational simplification that expands and contains and covers all such scenarios would be perhaps of clarification and benefit to you. For example, if the idea is that you fundamentally understand that on a basic level, all individuals should be treated equally with equal respect, then why do you need to add that it must happen for this group and that group and this group and that group, should the original idea not extend to all groups?
Right. Because in a sense, that could even create more separation and
yes, exactly. Because you feel the need to have to include something that should have already been included in the basic concept to begin with.
Yeah, kind of like a double standard in a sense.
Yes.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have gotten the intuition that there is a crystal skull connected to or underneath the Hill of Tara in Ireland.
You're close.
Okay, because the second one, it was as if these two were in my mind, was Newgrange.
We're not going to give you much information on this except to say that it's important that you follow your instincts.
Okay, because what my instinct also said is Newgrange is very connected to the Sirius vibration.
No comment necessary from us at this time.
Okay, thank you.
You are in mid-process. We cannot intervene.
Yes, I see that. And I was going to ask you, I've asked and received some myself, but I was going to ask you to share a circuit, a symbol for humanity at this time to come into greater balance.
That which might be called in the ancient times the symbol of the migrations or 4 directions, a circle with an equidistant cross in the center, representing the idea of all the directions, all the races coming together in unity and expanding therefrom.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you. Oh, one more thing. I had a dream with you that was very exciting. You came to me and you said, whether it was you or my higher mind, I'm not entirely sure. You said,
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And whether it was you or my higher mind, it was saying there is going to be an invention or something created on your earth very soon that is a type of clothing that will be either renewable or will be more efficient, that will change things very rapidly in unexpected ways in your reality.
Yes, this is a nanotechnological invention.
Okay. And is there a time frame that you see as that being a problem?
No longer than 20 years, but we cannot pinpoint it at this time.
Okay. And what are the effects that may ripple out?
Well, the idea is the versatility of the nanotechnological fabrics that can perform many different kinds of functions in different kinds of environments, and therefore can allow people to become more adaptable to different environments and allow them to thrive in those environments because of the adaptability of the suit that they are wearing.
Right. All right. That's all I got. Thank you so much, Bashar. I appreciate
We thank you for the interaction. Good day to you.
Likewise.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Chad from Toronto, Canada. And my question for today is, I've been feeling myself connecting on a sort of profound spiritual level with the idea and memory of the historical figure Anne Frank. I feel sort of compelled to write about her, to learn more about her life. And I'm curious, I guess, first of all, why I would be connecting with her at this time and having a connection. And second of all, what were her galactic origins? So do we perhaps come from the same soul family, oversoul, or extraterrestrial race? Thank you very much for your question, and goodbye.
All right, but again, you're thinking in old-fashioned terms. You're not from another extraterrestrial race. While you may have created connections energetically to other extraterrestrial races from this lifetime, you might be extensions of the same oversoul. I'm not saying that you necessarily are. But obviously you have made an energetic connection to that particular historical individual who does exist simultaneously with you, because time is an illusion. You're just considering her as existing in the past from your space-time perspective. Nevertheless, one of the primary reasons that we sense you have made that connection is because the symbol that that individual represents in what you consider your history to be is someone who is holding a space for a reality that is very different from the reality that's going on around her, around you. So in a sense, she is acting like the eye of the storm. When everything around her is chaos and seems to be exceedingly negative, she is creating a space, a safe space at the center of the storm, in the eye of the storm, to hold on to the values and understandings and wisdom of the reality that she prefers. And so you're simply connecting to her in that way as a symbol archetypally to also create a space for yourself in the eye of the storm of the chaos that is swirling around all of you at this time of transformation on your planet. She simply seemed like a very good person to connect to because she was so strong in holding that space.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
How are you?
Perfect, and you?
Something like that, I imagine.
Oh, all right.
I have a few questions about what you were speaking about earlier, the blue men.
Yes.
I was kind of on a technical level, you referred to them taking people away from Earth.
Sometimes, not always.
Who had experienced war so that they could experience peace.
On another planet, yes.
Right. And I wasn't clear when you said that, whether you meant that was like a permanent removal or whether they...
For most, it is a permanent removal.
I guess I'm curious whether it's certain energies that came to Earth and were so negatively affected by war that they had to be removed, or is it Earth energies that have been here for so long, mired in that energy, that they need to be, like, why would they be permanently removed as opposed to returned, or like what?
Because it's their choice.
Yes, I'm curious if there's a certain kind of experience that it inspires that choice within war, not just war, because not everybody goes, right?
No, it depends upon the chosen destiny of each individual as to whether or not they should leave the planet permanently. And simply the blue men have the ability to tell the difference.
And we on Earth would just think of them as missing in action forever.
You might think of them as missing. You might also think of them as dead, because many of them actually are dead before they're taken and resuscitated. So in other words, their life is over on Earth.
Right.
But they don't necessarily just go into spirit. They have chosen another path where they can actually be resuscitated and live out a physical life on another planet. It's one of the pathways that actually does exist, even though most of you don't understand that.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you say that to me, because something I've been teaching recently that manifested very quickly is I've been teaching dreamscapes workshops.
Yes.
Because there's so much richness in those realms that
yes,
teach us.
Yes.
And so we're talking a lot in these workshops about the landscapes of dreams. And so when you were describing this world, I was thinking it's somewhere maybe that I have been.
You might be visiting different places like this.
Yes, like this, like healing planets or...
Yes.
So.
You are all aware of these things when you are dreaming. You don't always remember when you wake up.
Yeah. Another dreaming question, because I talked to you about cityscapes and you told me I spent a lot of time in those, and I've experienced since the last time we talked in sort of becoming more coherent in those spaces.
Yes.
And I recently had this dream, 2 dream questions about 2 different dreamscapes. The first one is more of a puzzle. I was in a like a portal or a multi-dimensional Victorian house.
Yes.
And all the rooms were chapters of my life that I could, and maybe not even just mine, but like my energy.
Right. Well, that's a very creative way to look at the idea of parallel probabilities.
Right. And there's a guide in this dream who's sitting at a round table on the first floor while I'm walking up and down the stairs, moving boxes, thinking I have to leave. And in the midst of me walking up the stairs, this guide, I have an understanding that this guide is watching over me because I have a power with language and words. We've talked about this.
Yes, yes.
But the power has as it was described to me, a dangerousness. And
well, only if you use it in a negative way. In other words, you have to be responsible for how you use the vibrations, how you communicate.
Yes, interesting. Okay, and then, so that's clear. And then the second dream question about that compact mirror butterfly energy that spun in 360 degrees.
Yes, what about it?
And I said, is that butterfly energy? And you said, no, not quite.
Yes.
And then I said, what? And you said, we'll talk about it now.
And
I was wondering if we could talk more about it now, and you could tell me what beyond butterfly energy that represents.
Well, I already told you how to connect to them more.
Yes, but I mean through that symbol, because mirrors have come up and butterflies have come up. And if there's a combination of that in my dreaming, that's something a little bit further than both, I'd love to know.
It has to do with migration. It has to do with flying farther. It has to do with spreading seeds, spreading information to farther and farther distances. It has to do with carrying information aloft and taking it to places more exotic than where you've been.
Great. So that's why I asked about that dream image, because I didn't make that connection. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bashar, I love you.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Hello again, Bashar. My name is Ian, and I am currently coming to you from my hometown of Port Macquarie, New South Wales, Australia. And my question is, how can people get better at remembering in the present the actions of their future selves, so as to avoid any potentially regrettable futures for their present selves? I hope that makes sense. Thank you very much. That is all. Good day.
Well, first and foremost, you're defining the idea that if you're actually in the vibration of your true present self, that could somehow contain the idea you call a regrettable future. You have to separate those things and not combine them together, because the definition of being in your true self and in your passion cannot possibly vibrationally contain the idea of a regrettable future. All you're simply saying is you're holding on to belief systems that you would probably prefer to let go of, that say that somehow by acting on your passion and moving forward in the way that you prefer to, that something would somehow go wrong. That's not a definition of a vibration of your true self. That's a different definitional vibration. So you have to decide whether or not you want to keep connecting that other definition to your passion, or whether you want to realize that it has nothing to do with the vibration of what you can experience in the reality of your passion.
Shivai Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I have a number of questions to ask you. And we'll start out with the number one about preferences. You speak about preferences a fair amount.
Yes.
And I'm curious about what determines preferences, like interest in arts or science, or type of music, the work we choose. Are they the soul's themes we're exploring in life? Are they influenced?
Preferences are what aligns with your passion. It aligns with who you really are, what represents your path, your particular search, your particular investigation as this particular individual in this lifetime.
I see. And are they influenced by our DNA or physiology or life's experiences?
They can be, but they're more influenced by what you believe to be true.
Oh, okay. Fascinating. In terms of themes that we're exploring in life, as you were saying,
the
themes that we're exploring, are they related, or are there general themes that the Oversoul is exploring with us, or how does the connection?
Yes, it's more about the idea in general of transformation from one thing to another. The specifics are usually revealed in whatever the challenges are that come up in your life. That's usually a revelation of the specifics of the theme. Transform this, now transform that.
Gotcha. Thank you. I'm curious about the hybrid children. You've talked about this planet being toxic with the air, food, water, and EMFs. How will the hybrid children deal with the environmental pollutants and pathogens? How do they do that?
Well, the idea is that they do have ways of dealing with that to some degree, but by the time they actually come in full force, those things will have been somewhat diminished.
Okay. Great. Question I've been wanting to ask you for 13 years now. Sexuality is such a powerful driving force on this planet. What is it about that, and why do sexual boundary crossings and violations have such a profound impact on the human psyche?
Well, again, it's about anything being done either for positive reasons in alignment with your true self, or negative reasons that are out of alignment. The sexuality itself is one way to allow yourself to align with energies that are physical in nature, and allow you to ground yourself in the earth vibration as an expression of nature. And when utilized in very positive ways of integrity and equality, then the ideas can profoundly accelerate and increase the vibration of your resonance. Of course, you know that, again, anything can be used positively or negatively. So when used negatively in terms of controlling issues or self-depreciation issues, or one of the various fear-based belief systems that exist on your planet that you connect to sexuality, then of course your vibration will in some sense lower.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Speaking of the ET neighborhood, several decades ago, a channel brought to me one of the most refined spirits I have ever experienced. And beyond, the purity was beyond anything I thought was possible.
All right.
The name of this being was Esarera. And it struck me how similar that name is to Esasani. Is there any relationship there? Who was this being?
There is. It's a hybrid being that you are connected with that might be representative of a counterpart. You understand that term?
Yes.
All right. So you may be dealing with a counterpart version from the same oversoul that you are an extension of, to give you a reflection for guidance synchronistically that is also connected to my reality.
Whoa. Profoundly struck by that.
All right.
Oof. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Wow, that was really helpful.
All right.
I live in the San Francisco Bay Area where the lightning storms have started many of the fires here.
How exciting.
It was actually at some level. And I had a felt sense that the lightning was conscious and then the lightning strikes were somehow intentional. That's not the right word. Is there anything to
I understand exactly what you mean. The idea, again, is to understand that weather is a reflection of the collective emotional body of your entire world. And therefore, there may be archetypal representations that, of course, if you're sensitive enough, you will sense the consciousness in, because it is an expression of the collective consciousness of your planet on an emotional basis.
Ooh, wow. Thank you. That's very enlightening, as it were.
Oh, thank you for the pun.
Infants. I'm curious about infants. You've invited us to ask the question of ourselves, what would I have to believe to be true to have this feeling I'm having?
Yes.
How does that work in infants? Do they actually have thoughts like that? Or
they're not formed that way yet. They haven't all crystallized yet into the belief system structure of the collective. So they kind of come and go and still rely on their connection to their spirit.
Oh, okay.
But they may be absorbing some of those belief systems as they grow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And given all that, what is the wisdom of all the changes that are happening now with the fires, the storms, the flooding, COVID, the political, social unrest?
Certainly you are being given a reflection of the consequences of the choices that many of you have made, and whether or not you are now willing to take responsibility, meaning the ability to respond, to make changes that are more in the direction that you really prefer. Remember, physical reality is just a mirror.
Right.
So if you don't necessarily prefer what you're seeing in the reflection, it's a good opportunity to get in touch by contrast between what you don't prefer and what you really do, and then to act accordingly. But this is the convergence time. In other words, all the different cycles of what you have created are now converging. That's what this time is all about, so that there is absolutely no mistaking the consequences of the choices that have been being made.
It seems like to decide. Yes, it seems like the delay between our decisions and when the consequence happens seems to be, we can't seem to put those two together.
Well, you live in a reality of space-time construction, and therefore there can be what you call a delay. But it's bringing to your attention that the idea of a choice and the consequence are actually getting closer and closer, and not as much are they delayed.
Nice. Okay. I'm curious about how the Earth was populated with animals and the aquatic species and the plants. Was it DNA fragments? Was it delivered to us by other ET species? How did this?
Well, both. There is the idea of panspermia. You understand that?
Yes.
Of genetic material being delivered by asteroids and comets. There is also the idea of certain deliveries by extraterrestrial races of certain genetic material as well. It's one of the ways that nature has of expanding itself and creating evolution, is that some races develop to the point where they simply become mechanisms, not to devalue them, for the idea of the expansion and continuation of evolution of other races and other planets.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Last question. I feel like I have some connection with this third star in Orion's belt. Is there a planet? Do I have some kind of connection with?
Yes, as we have discussed sometimes, the ancient Orion systems form a very strong energetic connection for many people on Earth at this time, because it was an experience in some of the ancient Orion systems millions of years ago of experiencing very, very strong, very deep oppression, repression, some of the things you are beginning to experience more of on your planet. And therefore, this is an opportunity to connect to those ancient Orion energies of negativity and darkness and transform them into light so that you don't necessarily have to experience the Orion path as you experienced before a long time ago on Earth again. The idea of the Earth at this time is that it is kind of a melting pot of different kinds of pathways that different souls have taken, all coming together to now live out certain experiences and attempt to transform them into more positive ones. Earth is a transformer planet.
Oh, beautiful. What an exciting time to be here.
It is.
And is the number 11 associated with that star system?
Not directly, no. More, again, the number of 13.
13, okay, great.
Both the positive and the negative aspects of it that have come into your folklore.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bashar. I'm deeply grateful to have this contact with you.
As we also deeply appreciate the co-creation of such, our unconditional love and support to you.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Kate. I'm from Hong Kong. I want to ask about Hong Kong. This is a very challenging time for us politically. I want to know on a personal level and as a group, what kind of action or belief system that we should take in order to have a positive experience out of this. Thank you.
Well, clearly positive belief systems, positive definitions. But again, it all comes down to the distillation that we have shared with all of you that leaves nothing out. Follow the formula as best as you can, as best as you are able. Examine your belief systems and exchange the negative ones for positive ones, create positive definitions. And remember, it's not so much about what happens as it is about what you do with what happens that makes the difference. So no matter how things look, respond to them in positive ways. I'm not saying you ignore that something might be being created from a negative place, but you don't have to experience negativity just because it was created that way. If you maintain a positive relationship to the experience in your reality, you'll be able to use it to your advantage. So you have to stay in that state and see things from that viewpoint, from a more holistic perspective, and assign more positive definitions and meanings to the things in your reality. Whether they are created or you perceive that they're created negatively in other people's realities makes no difference. If you remain in that positive state, you will get the benefit from whatever happens if you keep that relationship between you and that circumstance in a positive state of being.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
We have some interesting questions from our viewers.
All right, please proceed.
Okay. The first question has to do with government knowledge of what's going on with the ETs. And the people want to know about if the members of our government have knowledge about the imminent arrival of ETs, and are they involved in making preparations for the event?
Some members are, but remember, it is not mostly the individuals you know as members of your government that are aware of these things. As has been said for quite some time, there is an organization that doesn't necessarily operate as your government that is mostly aware of what is going on with extraterrestrial involvement or proximity or contact with members on your planet. So while a few members of your government are aware of what is going on, most of the so-called preparations or avoidance of preparations are being made by the individuals that are involved with the organization that is clandestine.
Are they aware of the hybrid children coming and the preparations or enclaves where they will be placed?
Most of the individuals that are involved in that clandestine organization are aware that eventually hybrids will be among you more and more. They are not necessarily directly involved in the creation of the enclaves. That is more of something that will happen with the general public or being chosen by the Yael and the hybrid children themselves.
Okay. Can you tell us, do we have like a main galactic family, or do we have energies from galactic beings from all over the universe?
Well, not all over, no. You have a relatively close-knit connection of galactic family energy that many of you are connected to, but there is also the idea of a subgroup of that that is more relevant for you to be connected to, as we have said many times. Most of you have connections, of course, to the idea of the hybrids, such as ourselves, to the Sirius civilization, to the Pleiadian civilization, some ancient Orion connections. Arcturus energy is common among you. Now, of course, the idea of the injection of Anunnaki genetics into all of you to create Homo sapien does give you some minor connections to other extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional civilizations, because the Anunnaki themselves were a mix of things. So some of those other outside connections do exist, but they're not necessarily as prevalent as the ones that we have mentioned, since those are more relevant for the idea of the transformations that you are going through, the processes that you are going through now, which require a stronger sense of the connections we have mentioned regarding the subgroup.
Okay. I'm interested to know if Sasani beings have higher density beings helping them to get to the next density.
Yes, of course. Primarily, the connection to the non-physical group consciousness of Sirius acts in a sense as our mentors to help us up the ladder as we are helping you up the ladder.
Also, are there aliens doing things underwater? Do they have bases underwater, like in places like Siberia, or are craft actually going underwater on our planet?
Yes, many craft will go underwater to be able to access some of the underwater, underground, under ocean bases that exist there, because many beings have created some of these underwater, underground bases to make it more difficult for humans to find them, because it is more difficult with your technology to be able to access the bases if they are under the ocean.
Can people actually see them if they're down there, or are they invisible to us?
They are well hidden, although it is not impossible for, again, depending upon what depth you're at and what location you're at, for sometimes humans to be able to discern that there might be something there. Some of your satellites that scan the ocean floor and reveal the topography of the ocean floor have been able to sort of spot some of these underwater bases. But again, remember, they are underwater and underground. So there are very few signs of where these bases are. You would have to understand how to look at the topography of the ocean floor to be able to recognize where a base might actually be located, but they're well hidden.
And do they have a specific function that they're focused
Well, again,
on?
as bases, they have the function of allowing extraterrestrial races to come to the Earth and be on your planet without necessarily being discovered.
Why does the Earth have such a focus on it? Why are we so special? We keep thinking we need to find another planet to live on. How long is our Earth going to last? And why do ETs have such a fascination with our planet?
Well, there's a lot going on the Earth in terms of its diversity, both in terms of nature. There is a lot of water on the Earth that is usable by extraterrestrials as well. It is important for a variety of functions, and many UFOs have been seen over oceans and lakes, siphoning water up for various uses. The idea, of course, is that you're going through a very strong and powerful energetic transformation on your planet. So the idea of what's happening with your individual and collective consciousnesses has quite a lot to do with the interest and focus on your planet at this time. Again, the diversity that exists in nature and in humanity is of great interest to study for many societies among the stars to see what's going on. You have a very highly concentrated focus of energy in this transformation. And many other civilizations can learn from how you resolve your issues, overcome your challenges. So it's a very strong learning experience also, sociologically as a study, psychologically as a study. Many ET races are observing what's going on for a variety of these reasons that can be applied in their own civilizations or other civilizations with whom they may be in contact.
Thank you. Can you give us some information on which ET races altered our DNA over time?
Well, you have, of course, the Anunnaki, which created the idea of the original hybridization of humanity by creating Homo sapien from their own genetics and also from the naturally evolved hominid species that evolved on your planet, Homo erectus and the like. Also, of course, there have been genetic alterations with regard to your interactions with the Greys over time, obviously, toward the idea of creating the evolutionary path for Earth becoming the sixth hybrid race. There have been a few other alterations from time to time, depending upon certain encounters with other kinds of beings, but we can't necessarily go into those at this time.
Can you share anything about the alteration to our DNA and why it seems to be linked to the suffering that humans experience in this reality?
The alteration of the genetic material is not linked to the idea of suffering. It's linked to the idea of enhancing and increasing your ability to be more receptive antennas for higher frequency energies, which allow you to experience more kinds of effects, such as conscious awareness of other dimensions, telepathy, empathy, so on and so forth. The genetic alterations are not linked to the experiences of suffering. The genetic alterations allow you to transform the experiences of suffering into something less challenging, less difficult, less suffering.
Were there not alterations genetically that sort of suppressed certain aspects of our consciousness?
But you're talking about the original Anunnaki idea.
Yes.
And
yes.
in that context, yes, there may have been things that were not necessarily turned on, but many subsequent genetic alterations are allowing for the idea of those genetic markers to become active so that you can become more of your true selves in this transformational period.
How does that connect with the idea of the 12-strand DNA or those ideas?
The most you can actually physically encounter in your body or hold in your body are 3 strands, which is happening for many people in the creation of the 3rd strand. But the idea of 12 strands is simply an indication or an understanding, or perhaps even a misunderstanding, of the idea that you're connecting to higher frequency energies, which, if they could be physicalized, might represent additional strands of DNA, but they will never become physicalized beyond the 3rd strand because your bodies cannot physically handle the physicalization of more than 3 strands of DNA. But you are capable of connecting to the energy that might represent higher level strands, but they will remain non-physical connections.
So on the idea of the original hybridization that was created to create humans, and the idea that there were certain markers, would you say, that were suppressed in that original creation?
Yes.
And how that then relates to what's happening now and going forward. The idea is that the assistance we're receiving now is allowing us to activate more of our awareness of other dimensions.
Yes, more of the markers are being activated,
okay,
which allows for ultimately the creation of the 3rd strand of DNA.
Because isn't the source of the suffering really about the idea of being disconnected from our higher energies and people creating belief systems that are not in alignment with their true selves?
That may be how it started, but again, that's no longer the case.
Okay.
You are no longer limited in that sense.
All right. But that is the healing that's happening now, right? By becoming connected with these other levels of our consciousness, we no longer have to experience ourselves as being a disconnected species.
Correct.
That's
And
lost.
again, remember, it's not that you are actually disconnected, it's that you're becoming more aware of the connections you always had. Just because there may have been a kind of suppression in the physical DNA doesn't mean that you've never had the ability to connect energetically. It's just a matter of the belief systems that were created through the suppression not necessarily making it available to your awareness that you could always have turned those markers on.
I see. Which ETs contacted the Mayans? And can you tell what information did they share with the Mayans?
This is a misunderstanding. It's not that even though there were other ET races that were in contact with the Maya civilization, it's not that there were basically the idea of extraterrestrials contacting the Maya. The Maya are the descendants of extraterrestrials. That particular humanoid species came to Earth, established colonies, built many of the structures that you understand that exist in those regions on your planet. But in that sense, it is the Maya themselves that built those things. It's just that the descendants now, while they have the memory of their connection to those ancient ancestors, those ancient extraterrestrial ancestors that came to Earth, it's simply that some of them chose to remain on Earth when the majority of the Maya left. So the idea is that the Maya that exist today are the actual descendants of an extraterrestrial race. So it's not so much that the extraterrestrials came and visited the Maya and helped them with those structures. The Maya themselves, in their early form, actually built those structures because they are actually extraterrestrials who came to Earth.
And yet, didn't they express themselves as a more primitive civilization in a sense, in terms of the structures they created? And, they all have that idea of like the pyramids in Tikal, this pyramidal structure that seemed to be prevalent throughout the planet.
Yes. The ones for the Maya were built by the Maya. It's just that, again, remember, after the majority of the Maya extraterrestrials left, which actually are called the Mayab, the idea of the remnants that stayed, the few that stayed, created the Maya civilization as you know it, but it also devolved because they were no longer experiencing the level of technology that the original Mayab had. And also because of different things that have gone on your planet, certain destructions, certain environmental issues, encounters with individuals that conquered the civilization has allowed them to forget much of their ability that they originally had. But when those structures were originally created, they were created by the Maya when they were at their peak, before they left.
Did those ET civilizations practice human sacrifice or sacrifices and things like that? Or that's all later developments?
That's
by
much
humans?
later in the devolution.
Okay. Can you shed some light on the intelligent civilizations that are in the Milky Way, in the sense that it seems like there are ET groups that are non-physical, some are semi-physical, some are densely physical like we are. Is in terms of ratios of civilizations in our neighborhood, so to speak, is there any information you can share with us about how that proportionally is laid out?
We have said we are not going to discuss it that way.
Oh, okay. So, but are most of the people that we're interacting with are either semi-physical like yourself or physical? Yes?
No.
No.
There are, as we have already outlined in the monologue, a species that you refer to as the blue men.
Yes.
Which are, in terms of the ones visiting you, energy that can take some physical form, but they are not physical in and of themselves per se, although aspects of their society on their own planets are physical. The ones that are visiting you are the ones that have learned to turn themselves into energy and can take some physical form, but they're not the same as the physical component of their society, which remains on their home world and the colony worlds that they have created.
So in terms of like the Yael are physical.
Yes.
Yes.
But they are of a high
And
vibration.
Serious consciousness is a non-physical.
Higher level serious consciousness is
right.
non-physical, but there are physical serious beings that are amphibious that have physically visited your world in the past.
So when we're interacting with the dolphins, is that in a way like interacting with an ET species that's intelligent and physical and also connected with other levels of physicality or non-physicality?
Yes, but they're not ETs because they're not extraterrestrial, but
Right.
they are, in a sense, an alien life form to you.
I mean, in a sense, aren't they the closest to interacting with a non-human species that is highly intelligent and would be kind of like a ET group?
Yes, this is why we have recommended that many people learn to communicate and interact with dolphins and whales, because it is one of the closest representations you have on your own planet of interacting with an alien society.
That's really exciting.
Practice. It's good practice for interacting with other alien societies that truly are extraterrestrial.
So when dolphins are in the water and they're interacting with humans, and they have a wider range of understanding of what's going on in the water. For example, if someone were in danger and the dolphins decided to surround that person to protect them.
Yes. This has often happened.
Yes. Yeah, I know, because I just recently experienced that. And I just was wondering how they can tell if is it through their sonar that they know what's going on at greater distances than we're able to?
It is through sonar and also telepathic vibrations. Remember that when you're in the water also, if you feel that you're in what you might perceive to be a dangerous situation, you're giving off a frequency that they can pick up and interpret.
Actually quite extraordinary the way that they have such a far reach in terms of knowing what's going on in the water.
Well, remember that water is highly conductive, way more conductive of vibrational energy than air.
Cool. The Sasani civilization seems to be quite balanced and happy. Can you say your culture has always been this way, or did they evolve after a certain point to reach the Sasani way of being?
We evolved, but again, remember, being a hybrid race, artificially created, and given certain advantages that you may not have had, we had a head start. So while we may have experienced certain challenges that have to do with negative energies, so on and so forth, yes, we did ultimately start out a little bit farther along the evolutionary path. Thus, at a certain point when we experienced what we call our Shakana transformation, we linked telepathically in a matter of 3 days, and from that point forward, did not really experience the idea of disease or negativity in that sense in the same way to the same degree, and it allowed us to accelerate our evolution greatly at that point.
Well, lucky for us, huh?
If you say so.
And as far as like ET civilizations pumping, balancing energy into the planet through vortices, is this something just your civilization is doing, or there are others that are also participating in that endeavor?
There are several others participating in that. I am not, again, going to delineate them at this point because, again, we have already begun the phase over time of talking to you about your ET neighbors and who is involved with what and why and how. And so we will lay out those particular members of extraterrestrial civilizations according to the timing of our agenda in revealing your neighbors to you. But yes, there are many that are involved.
So how does that energy impact us when the effect, in a sense, on us as humans here on the planet?
it gives you a greater ability to make shifts in the direction that you prefer when you decide to tap into that energy by being more of yourselves and acting on your passion. It can only impact you if you match the vibrations, and it's easier for you to match those vibrations that are being given to you by following your passion and raising your own frequencies as you become more aware of the other vibrations that are there for you to access.
Okay. Okay, let's switch over to a little bit about the moon.
Yes.
So a lot of people think that the moon has an influence over our levels of intuition, and I guess that the moon has some sort of mystical powers. And then, of course, you've shared with us that we are now receiving the reflection of the orbs that are surrounding your planet through our moon. Is that correct?
Yes,
So
but again, please, before you ask the question, please, everyone, remember the idea that it influences you is an old-fashioned, outdated definition. It is a reflection of what's going on with you to give you the ability to understand how to guide yourselves, how to course correct if you so desire. It doesn't influence you in the sense that it controls you. It gives you an opportunity to be aware of a certain kind of vibrational frequency that could benefit you if you allow yourself to become more aware of the guidance that it's reflecting to you.
Okay, and so like recently we've had it where both the moon and the sun are up at the same time in the sky.
What do you mean recently? That happens quite often.
I know, I guess I just tuned into it. But I was just wondering about that state and energetically how that connects with the mystical nature of the moon.
Well,
and
it's the
elements.
balance point. It's the balance point, and that's why you experience it usually at the idea of the full moon, because that is what you experience as the sun and the moon generally being up at the same time when they're on opposite sides, one setting and one rising. But the full moon shows you the opportunity to be at the balance point in the center of that which represents the physical awareness and that which represents the non-physical awareness.
So when we are connecting with the moon and also receiving that reflective energy from your world,
yes,
what is a good state of being to choose to be able to receive that fully, whatever
excitement
information?
And curiosity, the willingness to explore outer and inner reality simultaneously.
So it's really, and it's not necessarily an idea of thought as much as it is an energetic state that you open yourself up to receive that energy.
Of course, because that energetic state will then produce the thoughts that are necessary for further exploration.
And even if it doesn't provide a specific thought or information, you are physically receiving it through light in a sense.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes, energy. Yes, vibrations, resonance, of course.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I know a lot of people have asked questions like, how do you tune into the Akashic records or past lives and things like that? And I think it's all the same idea, isn't it? That
yes. You perceive whatever you are the vibrational state of. But again, it helps to clarify your understanding about how these things actually work physically, how they're actually structured. Again, it begins with the understanding that everything exists at once. And when everything exists at once, then anything is accessible to you if you're on the correct vibration to access that information, because it's all here and now for you. So again, your passion, your interests, your curiosity, what attracts you is the indication of you turning the dial, in a sense, to what kind of information you will synchronistically receive by being in that state of attractiveness or curiosity to particular ideas and subjects.
And I guess using the moon as a reflection of the energy that's coming from your world also gives us something physicalized to focus on. And then you can pay attention to your state of being and just allow whatever needs to come to you and is relevant for you to be received at that moment.
Yes, we have provided you with another layer, another level of a permission slip that connects to our vibration to allow you to tap into it and make it easier for you by tapping into it to explore other dimensional realities and other layers and levels of consciousness, intelligence, and information that exists within the universe or the multiverse.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you.
It
It's
is our
very
passion and our
exciting.
pleasure.
This is a practical question about manifesting. If a person desires a new car, and is the idea that you become the person who has that wish fulfilled, or is it more the idea that, like, that's more of an old-fashioned way of looking at?
It's an old-fashioned way of looking at it because, again, you have to be careful about whether or not your desire is a true need or it is just an egotistical want. The idea, again, is that if you are following the instruction manual, the formula of acting on your passion to the best you can with no insistence or assumption of the outcome and remain in a positive state, no matter what occurs to get the benefit from it, then what you need will synchronistically come to you in perfect timing if you truly need it. The idea is to let go of some of the wants because you don't always know that what you want is what you truly need at that moment. Sometimes they can coincide, but very often they will not because you really don't have a clue what the idea of the ideal outcome or manifestation would really be for you at that moment. So you can be open to the idea, to use your example, of the manifestation of a vehicle, of a car, but also have to be open to the idea of letting your higher mind bring you what you actually need and being willing to explore the possibility that you may not actually need that car, even though you may want it. The idea is that when you're on a certain level, the things that are commensurate with that level will come to you if they are what you need to allow you to continue to act on your excitement. So if a car is something that you actually need to be allowed to continue to act on your excitement, then such a thing will happen in some way, shape, or form. Even if it comes down to the idea that someone will always be there to give you a ride if you don't have the car yourself. It's always going to be what's the path of least resistance. So be open to the idea of any form of the manifestation that allows you to do what you need to do. It doesn't always mean that the car has to be actually yours. It can be, if that is the path of least resistance, but don't insist on it because you don't know that that actually is the thing you need at that moment. When you relax these insistences and assumptions about how these manifestations should occur, then they will occur as they need to occur, because the bottom line, as you say, the whole point to it is to simply allow you to continue to flow in the direction most quickly that actually is your path of least resistance.
Yeah, it really does involve changing our relationship to needs versus wants.
Yes.
And that's almost like a maturity thing too,
It
you know,
is.
because I know when
Because
we're younger,
remember,
we really feel like we
I
have to
know,
have this thing, and
I
that's
know. And remember, everything is already here. You just have to match the vibrational frequency of it to allow it to become visible. But it has to be relevant for you in your life at this particular moment in order for the manifestation to occur. And it is a maturity issue because if you understand how things work in a more mature way, you will understand that while sometimes your wants and your needs may coincide, the idea to understand is that if you always get what you truly need, you will always feel fulfilled. Whereas sometimes when you get, if you get what you want, you may not necessarily feel fulfilled because your wants and your needs don't always align.
yes, that is definitely an old story on earth of people chasing success or chasing things that they think will fulfill them,
Yes.
when in actuality, the real determinant of whether something satisfies you is whether it's something you need as opposed to something that you want.
Yes. But the thing of it is you don't even necessarily have to analyze what you need, because the idea is that it automatically comes to you through the organizing principle of synchronicity. It will always bring you exactly at that moment what you need. Even if what it brings you is something you don't prefer, You have to know that it's there for a reason that could serve you. And that's why the fourth point of the formula is so important, because if you simply remain in a positive state, even if something is manifested that you don't prefer, you'll be able to use what you don't prefer in a way that you do prefer. You'll learn the lesson as to why it's there. You will learn the knowledge and information you need at that moment from why it's there. And it will then disappear more quickly because you've been willing to accept it as something that needed to be in your life at that moment, so you could use it in a positive way to gain insight and knowledge into yourself. And that's what will allow you to accelerate forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Also on the idea of the splitting realities and some of the challenges that individuals are facing right now, one idea that has come up over and over again is a very distinct difference in some people's perspective on keeping other people safe during the pandemic through wearing masks and others who don't.
Yeah.
And the individuals that prefer to wear masks and prefer to help keep other people safe they're having reactions to the people who don't hold that perspective. And their curiosity is, why do the people who don't want to wear masks keep showing up in the reality of the people who do want to?
Well, again, first and foremost, you always have to understand the actual reason why someone may choose to do what it is they're doing. Many people who choose not to wear the masks may not necessarily have a positive reason for doing so. Some might, but many do not, because many people are not aware of the belief systems that they're holding on to and don't necessarily realize that they may be making choices from a very self-centered negative position and not necessarily thinking that they're connected to anyone else's experience. But the idea really is that you're still going to see and attract into your life people for a while that may have polar opposite vibrational incompatibility with you, because that's simply the nature of what's going on your planet in terms of the splitting into different realities. But please remember that just because you can see them doesn't mean they can affect you. You are in your own reality, but still capable of looking through a glass wall that separates your reality from their reality. So just because you can see them making choices that you don't prefer doesn't mean they have any effect on you unless you go into the fear that they do. So the idea is to recognize that, again, you will observe alternate realities for quite some time to give you an opportunity to act as a living example, to give them other options and other choices that they could choose. But it's not necessary for them to choose those things just because you want to exist in a reality that prefers something different, because you are in a different reality with your different preference if you understand that there is a glass wall between you through which you can see them and they can see you, but you can't really affect each other unless you succumb to the vibration of their reality, and then you wind up on the other side of the wall in a reality you don't prefer to be in. So for now, you can shift back and forth, and it gives you an opportunity, if you prefer something more positive, to see the negative choices, to use them by comparison and contrast, to make it clearer by comparison and contrast what it is you do prefer, as opposed to the choices that others may be making that are not compatible with your preference. This will continue for a while, but in the years to come, you will see them less and less. They will see you less and less. We cannot determine specifically exactly when you will no longer see them as a group, but you may start to find that certain individuals will no longer be perceived in your reality as you go along. And perhaps no longer than about 20 to 30 of your years from now, you may find that you're existing in a reality that no longer perceives vibrational incompatibility of those individuals at all. But again, it will be different for different individuals, different groups, and for the collective whole as to exactly how that timing works out when you no longer perceive entirely the idea of other parallel realities that are vibrationally incompatible with the one you have chosen to participate in.
So in being able to respect the idea that there is a glass wall between you and another individual that may have a different belief system,
Yes.
and simultaneously, if that person is insisting and thrusting themselves into your reality and, you know, in a sense of endangering your safety, so to
But
speak.
no, they're not. That's what we're saying. Just because you can see them, just because they keep manifesting and you're able to observe them, doesn't mean they're in your reality.
So if someone's walking by you and they cough and they have no covering on and they're potentially polluting your air, how does that relate to the glass wall, and how should you respond to that so that you're not saying, oh, that glass wall doesn't exist and I'm totally not safe, but at the same time respecting science and physicalness
Well,
of
again,
this
you have
experience?
just said it yourself. You have to understand that whether or not you succumb to the fear that they're going to affect you means you're on their side of the glass wall. But the idea also is to act as a living example. And sometimes that does sometimes require a communication, a conversation, to help them understand that maybe other ways to look at the situation in a more positive context of interconnectivity with all individuals. Because most of the individuals who have expressed the idea of not wearing the mask on your planet have expressed it as an intrusion into their rights. But the idea is that they're not understanding in the holistic connective sense that it is not really about them. It's about the idea of them carrying it to other individuals who don't necessarily have a say in their choices. So the idea is that when people understand that there are other people who may have belief systems within themselves that make them susceptible to the idea of the virus, it is the idea of them taking care of and looking out for other people in choosing to observe the conditions and the masks and the social distancing, because they are then acting as guardians of others who may not be aware that they may have belief systems that would make them more susceptible. So it's about going from a more self-centered perspective to an idea of a more global perspective of looking out for others. And by those having conversations and enlightening them in that way, they may decide to understand that it's not just about them, but it's about the whole community. And the idea, of course, is that you still have to allow them to choose what they're going to choose if they're going to hold on to belief systems that are more focused on themselves. And in understanding it and doing it that way, then you can understand that just having that conversation doesn't make you susceptible, and there's no need for anger. It's just a matter of education. It's just a matter of enlightenment. It's just a matter of providing a different perspective that gives them the opportunity to choose a different path. But you also have to understand that you can't insist that they do. Because if you are secure in the reality that you have created for yourself, then there is no anger or force necessary in getting them to change their mind, because you understand then that they are in a different reality and cannot really affect you. And those that then are susceptible to them have also chosen realities where they may choose to fear that they are susceptible to them, and you have to let it play out. So the idea is a balance point between the understandings of what is true for your reality, how you act as a living example to give others an opportunity to change into something more positive, but you also have to let it go when they choose not to, because it's none of your business what they do, because you don't know what their life path is and what it is they may need to experience in order to learn the lessons they need to learn.
So in a sense, it's created a heightened sense of recognizing the glass wall and recognizing the degree to which you honestly believe that you are, in a sense, on the other side of the glass wall.
Yes,
and
and
this
the
is like,
behavior and the behavior that goes with that knowledge. Because if
and
someone approaches someone else in anger or fear, then that's a definition and an expression of the idea that you don't really know that you're on the other side of that glass wall.
And that's a big paradigm shift for us, the idea that you can be seeing things in your reality that are not what you prefer, and yet it's actually a separate reality. Maybe that wasn't an ability we had before, but
But you have
now,
that ability now, which is one of the reasons why we're explaining the structure of existence to you, because as we have said many times, understanding the actual structure of how existence works is what will give you the clarity and the ability to be able to operate in the reality you prefer, while still having some degree of observation and interaction with realities that you don't. So now it's time for you to wrap your minds around the idea and understanding of this structure, how things are created, and use it to your advantage instead of succumbing to the fear and therefore giving up the idea of your self-empowerment and where you know you truly stand.
okay. Well, we really appreciate that new understanding, because it can help a lot in observing the changes that our society is going through.
It can if people allow themselves to understand. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tadeo. Really enjoyed our communication. Hope
It is,
everyone else did too.
as always, our passion and our pleasure and our unconditional love to you all. And now, by all means, allow yourselves in whatever way, shape, or form works for you to become gently relaxed so that you may experience your meditation.
So, now you can become relaxed and let go of the cares of the day so that we may guide you now in a meditation to expand the probabilities of contact by introducing you to another situation in your neighborhood. Now, allow yourselves, with whatever images you produce and whatever music you produce, to simply let go, relax. Deep breathing will accompany this idea, and just open up to sensing the vibrations of the neighborhood. And we will take you in this meditation as you feel yourself letting go and relaxing, letting in those things we will share with you, to a space above your planet, between the orbit of the Earth and the orbit of the Moon, about 100,000, 150,000 miles above the Earth. There is a very large, multi-level, saucer-shaped station that stays there and has been there for quite some time and will continue to be there for quite some time. This very large spaceship, space station, contains many different groups of extraterrestrial beings working together or using it as a way station to help them in their observations and studies of Earth. And so we want to let you know of the existence of this craft that contains many levels and many chambers in which many different ET races coexist, come and go, as a port, as a station, to aid and assist them in their endeavors, while they all keep watch upon Earth, observing whatever they observe with their own agendas, taking that information and sharing it. Sometimes humans have been taken to this station. So what we are suggesting that you do right now in this meditation, as you relax even further, is to allow yourself to imagine that you are being lifted off the Earth in any way, shape, or form you prefer to, either with just your body on a beam of light or in a spacecraft, doesn't matter, and allow yourself to rise above the Earth until the Earth appears to be about the size of a soccer ball. And then see before you this giant circular silver saucer with its multi-levels gleaming in the sunlight, hanging, floating in space. And allow yourself to see that you are entering one of the chambers, arrival chambers, and disembarking into this station. And imagine yourselves walking through the different sections, through the different levels, going up, going down, on different tubular access vehicles that you would call elevator tubes, but with no particular enclosure, just rising or going down through these transparent tubes to the different levels, or walking around on the different decks in the different chambers, some of which may include spaces in which to eat, spaces in which to sleep for those that require those things, some of which are scientific laboratories, educational facilities, control centers, which allow you a view of Earth, monitors that may contain views of other planets to which many of these beings belong, And it doesn't matter at this point whether you are accurate in your depiction of the many beings that are walking around on the deck near you, passing by you, going about their business. Imagine whatever forms of aliens you wish, both humanoid and not. It doesn't matter right now. This will become more specific at a later time. But right now, we are simply encouraging you in this meditation to focus on the idea of how it feels to be on such a craft, on such a station that exists above your Earth, with all of these different beings going about their business, some of them acknowledging you, some of them simply passing by, allowing you to feel, to know that this is going on in your neighborhood, that this way station exists in your neighborhood for a variety of purposes, and that it will still continue to exist in this place as you yourselves begin to develop more ability, more awareness, and more efficacy at creating your own spacecraft that use universal powers and universal laws, so that one day in your own craft you may dock with this station and come aboard as a species and partake of the various races and interact with the various beings that also utilize this United Nations or United Planets craft, if you wish to look at it that way, where different beings are welcome to go about their business and interact, so that you simply know that these beings are in your neighborhood. Allow yourself the opportunity now to just explore, pick up on whatever you're going to pick up on, see whatever it is your imagination allows you to see, learn whatever it is your imagination allows you to learn about what is going on in the various endeavors that these beings may be undertaking. Just explore. Just feel the energy of exploration, of observation, of study, of learning, of knowledge, of wisdom, and expand that to the cosmos. For in this craft is a vast library of information and knowledge of the cosmos. Not only your neighborhood, but well beyond into other neighborhoods, and even into other star systems and other galaxies. Allow yourself to know that this exists. The greatest library in your neighborhood is 100,000 miles above your planet, and you can access this anytime you wish in your imagination. Let synchronicity and higher mind be your guides on this journey. And anytime you think of this and extend your consciousness to this station, to this meeting point, to this melting pot, to this beautiful silver shining craft with its multiple layers and multiple chambers, with all of these beings going about their business of learning and expanding themselves and their knowledge of existence by observing all of you as well. Allow yourself to participate and become part of this unity. Allow yourself to feel that you can belong to this alliance. Allow yourself to simply feel the expansion of knowledge and awareness that is going on, that is contained in this craft. Immerse yourself in it. Revel in it. Wallow in it. And absorb it in whatever way, shape, or form is comfortable for you. And feel not only the individualness, the diversity, the incredible diversity of all of the beautiful differences of all the individuals and representatives of their own races and planets and stars and galaxies, but also the unity and the harmony within this craft, and the beauty of the orchestration of synchronicity that exists within its walls, floating beautifully in space. Allow yourself now to simply return to Earth, knowing that this is there for you anytime you wish to visit it in your imagination or out of body, in your astral form. It is there for you to participate in, to feel that you belong to, and to enjoy, because it is part of your neighborhood. and will be here for you for many, many years to come. Allow yourself now to simply relax back into your environment of Earth, and now be able to see more clearly both perspectives of not only living on the surface of your world, but also seeing your world from that vantage point of that station, through the eyes of all of those races as they gaze upon you, as they observe you, as they learn from you, and expand their knowledge of the cosmos through you. See yourself in both places simultaneously, because you are. For many of you may have counterparts on that station, observing their counterparts on the surface of the Earth. Feel the lines of connection and energy that anchor them to the Earth and you to them. And allow yourself to walk upon the Earth in your path with renewed understanding and feelings of connection that you belong to a vast neighborhood of many different kinds of diverse individuals who are all sharing similar purposes of expanding their awareness and their knowledge, and that you can participate in this expansion as well. Breathe it in and crystallize this relationship with you and them, and allow yourself to participate and feel the participation more and more every day from two different vantage points as you become more aware of more of yourself. Allow yourself to breathe gently and easily now. And in both locations, we extend to you our unconditional love and our welcome to your home. Welcome home. Welcome to the neighborhood. Welcome to the awareness of what is going on more and more around you that may have been heretofore invisible, but is becoming more visible every day. And we will help, along with others, guide you into more recognition and more awareness of the different beings and the different races that are interacting in your neighborhood with you, so that you can feel more connected to the galactic family to which you actually belong, and more aware and capable of expanding yourself to see from those more lofty perspectives, as well as from the Earth, and as well as feeling and experiencing yourself as an extension of nature, not only of the Earth, but of many different worlds and of the cosmos itself. Welcome home, welcome home, welcome home. Our unconditional love and support to you all, and we bid you an exciting day of exploration, self-discovery, and play, and remind you all once again that the first step toward true enlightenment is to always lighten up on yourselves. Don't judge yourselves negatively. You don't deserve it. Don't take things too seriously. Relax and go with the flow, because your flow knows exactly where you need to go. Good day.